Well, good morning, Wellspring. And cyber greetings out to Zoom land folks. How's the weather, Judy? Well, Zoom has been muted and we'll unmute you at the end of the service. Today is the first Sunday of the new year, 2025, January 5th. My name is Vicki Avery. I'm a member of the Board of Trustees here. And as always, we have a few announcements. And there's our world traveler coming in, sneaking in the back door.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Vicki.
Welcome, welcome, Jean.
I can't run and I can't run.
You got that right, girl. Well, here's some of the announcements. Early Birds meets Sunday mornings at 9:30 via Zoom. Link is in our weekly email or on our website. We're still reading the book by Stephen Levine. It's a great book, wonderful discussions. Today, our speaker is Miss Peggy Shinn. She is a religious science practitioner, has been for, about 100 years. Next week on the 12th is Reverend Sandy. She'll be coming down from TRC. On the 19th is Dr. Edward. And on the 26th, Reverend Kamatara, and she comes to us via Albuquerque. Lunch Bunch will be meeting this Wednesday, the second Wednesday of the month, January 8th at Cracker Barrel. And also the second Wednesday of the month is our Board of Trustees. We meet at 6:30 via Zoom, and as with every board meeting, we invite members to attend as we do the work for our beloved Wellspring. And you can get the coordinates from Edward. If you'd like to join us, please do. We have good discussions and we do a lot of good work for Wellspring. Thursday evening group continues to meet at 7 o'clock there in the social hall or on Zoom. You can get the coordinates from Cleona or Edward. And still announcing that the labyrinth is slowly coming along, and we thank you for those who have continued to bring rocks. And we need about 400 of about 6-inch rocks to line the diameter and make the path. And we do have a member here who has a book on labyrinths, so we can look at that and decide what design we want to create out by the pergola. And full moon is coming. The shamanic full moon ceremony will be on Monday, January 13th at Dr. Juan Robles' house. The gathering is at sunset around 5:15, 5:20, and call or talk to him for more details and for directions. And if you have a drum, you're welcome to bring that or any other musical instrument. And our community outing for January is Singing Out Las Cruces, the LGBTQ and Ally Choir. It's going to be on Sunday, January 26th at 3 o'clock at St. Paul's Methodist Church. The admission is $20 or the senior rate is $15. The price increases at the door. Dinner afterwards will be at the Broken Spoke Tap House following the concert. And we have our annual meeting coming up, and it comes around every year. Funny how that works out. So our annual meeting is Sunday, February 9th. This meeting will take place following the service and after a luncheon that's provided. We'll discuss the status of the Wellspring's spiritual and financial existence, being. And there are board members available. So if anybody would be interested in joining the board, if anybody would be interested, I got a real solid head shake. Okay. But there are positions available if anybody would like to be of service to our Wellspring community. And lastly, our prayer team remains ready to serve and to support you. You may submit a request via our webpage or give it to Edward. At the back of the sanctuary, we do have a little wood box that has some requests in there. Our prayer team meets virtually on Tuesday afternoons at 4:15 to pray with you. You may consider sitting in your quiet space during this time because we know that we are one in spirit and the energy of prayer knows no limits. And now it's time for an invocation. If you'd like to just get comfortable in your seats, take a nice deep breath in, and then just release any stress or tension so that you can fully be here. Mother, Father, God, Great Spirit, the all that is in, through, and around each one of us is here now as we gather together and celebrate as the Wellspring spiritual community. We give great thanks for this opportunity to be together, to support each other on everyone's individual spiritual journey. We know that with this new year, there are wonderful new opportunities and possibilities for us to continue to write our life story. We give great thanks for this time to come together as we say together, and so it is. Okay, and now, if you would please, if you're able to stand so that we can sing our song of joy. We'll be accompanied by Edwin. Morning has broken.
So I've said this before, that music activates the chakras. And not only that, when it's a group, there's a connection made through music. So, and the last thing I'm going to say about it is the louder you sing, the more it activates that energy. Right?
Got it.
Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning. Praise from them springing, fresh from the word. Sweet the rains do fall, sunlit from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, sprung in completeness where his feet pass. Mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning, born of the one light, Eden saw play. Praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day. One more time. God's recreation of the new day.
If you heard that crash, it was morning breaking in the back there. Now it's time for our vision, our mission, and our affirmation. If you'd please join me. Our vision: to elevate spiritual consciousness in our world. Our mission: to support individual spiritual quests through celebration, study, counsel, loving fellowship, and service. And our affirmation: I step into the new year with an open heart and a clear mind, knowing that infinite possibilities unfold before me. Guided by divine wisdom, I embrace growth, joy, and peace in every area of my life. I affirm the power of Spirit moves through me now, creating a world of love and harmony for all. Thank you. And now we're going to call up a special musician for our special music.
Well, as you may have gathered by now, Barry is off to greener pastures, maybe not greener, different pastures. And so we're kind of getting organized, shall we say, on music. So it's up to me. Judy's gone, and I didn't find somebody else to do special music. So we're doing special music. Now, our first song is Old Lang Syne. And in case you didn't get a chance to sing it on New Year's Eve, we're going to do it today. And if you want to read this, I'll read this together. This translates literally to old long since, but means something like times gone by or for the sake of times gone by. Written by Robert Burns, 1788, and based on an old Scottish folk song. Burns actually used some of the lyrics from the earlier folk song, but he wrote the rest. The song is about looking back on the year and preserving old friendships. So that's the theme. It's a reminder to cherish fond memories should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind. First line is a question and then answered implicitly as no. We shouldn't forget old acquaintances, old friends. It's called to remember and preserve long-standing relationships. It became popular in England and Scotland for celebrations of New Year's around 1800 and around the world in 1928. Ready? Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot when old lang syne? For old lang syne, my dear, for old lang syne, we'll take a cup of kindness yet for old lang syne. And surely you'll buy your pint cup, and surely I'll buy mine, and we'll take a cup of kindness yet for old lang syne. For old lang syne, my dear, for old lang syne, we'll take a cup of kindness yet for old lang syne. We too have run about the slopes and picked the daisies fine, but we've wandered many a weary foot since old lang syne. We too have paddled in the stream from morning sun till dawn, but seas between us broad have roared since old lang syne. For old lang syne, my dear, for a cup of kindness yet for old lang syne. And there's a hand, my trusty friend, and give a hand of thine, and we'll take a right goodwill draft for old lang syne. For old lang syne, my dear, for old lang syne. We'll take a cup of kindness yet for old lang syne. All right.
I just felt the spirit of Dick Clark in the room. Did any of you make New Year's resolutions? I just heard that the second Friday of January, majority of people who make resolutions stop, and it's called officially Quitter's Day. So I don't make any resolutions, so I don't have to deal with quitting. Well, I contacted Ms. Peggy to see what her theme for her message would be. And a couple weeks ago, she talked about superconsciousness, and she's going to continue that. And when I thought about the things that we learn and do to support our spiritual journey, this poem came to mind. It's by Robert Fulghum. It was written in 1986, and he included it in a book in 1988. He was born and raised in Waco, Texas, and he is a Universalist Unitarian minister. And this is the reading. All I really need to know, I learned in kindergarten. Share everything. Play fair. Don't hit people. Put things back where you find them. Clean up your own mess. Don't take things that aren't yours. Say you're sorry when you hurt somebody. Wash your hands before you eat. Flush. Warm cookies and milk are good for you. Live a balanced life. Learn some and drink some and draw some and paint some and sing and dance and play and work every day some. Take a nap every afternoon. When you go out into the world, watch out for traffic, hold hands, and stick together. Be aware of wonder. Remember the little seed in the styrofoam cup? The roots go down and the plant goes up, and nobody really knows how or why, but we are all like that. Goldfish and hamsters and white mice and even the little seed in the styrofoam cup, they all die. So do we. And remember the Dick and Jane books and the first word you learned, the biggest word of all? Look. Everything you need to know is in there somewhere. The golden rule and love and basic sanitation, ecology and politics and equality and sane living. Think what a better world it would be if the whole world had cookies and milk about 3 o'clock every afternoon, then lay down with our blankies for a nap. Or if all governments had a basic policy to always put things back where they found them and to clean up their own mess. And it is still true. No matter how old you are, when you go out into the world, it is best to hold hands and stick together. And so it is. Now it's my great pleasure to call up Ms. Peggy. Hold hands and stick together.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Vicki. Wow. Once again, I feel like I don't need to say a thing. The reading has taken care of anything that I wanted to cover in the more lengthy, wordy, esoteric, and maybe less understandable even fashion. Vicki mentioned that I told her I was going to continue a little bit today in my conversation with you that I started a couple of weeks ago about the superconsciousness. And you might remember, or you've seen it on the video, that I really said the superconsciousness is the Christ consciousness. It is the I am consciousness. So today, I think the language that I'm using more to shorten it a little bit and to deepen it a little more is the I am, the consciousness of the I am. So it is the first of the year, as Vicki reminded us, and so that is the time for the resolutions. And Edward reminded me in a comment he made to me that he said, I always like your first of the year talks. And I thought, I have spoken a number of times here on the first of the year. And I've kind of lost track of that a little bit. But I don't make resolutions. I kind of gave that up years ago rather than be a quitter. I just quit before I start, whatever. But I kind of adopted what Reverend Sandy Scott taught me and taught the rest of us that were there around paying attention at the time, which is to allow a word or phrase, short phrase or word to come to you, and that to kind of be your mantra or your motto for the year or your focus for the year. And it's interesting how I just said, for those of us who are paying attention, because the word that I chose for this year, it came, just like hit me over the head, is attention. And I'm not going to talk about attention today as much as I'm going to talk about something closer in a way to the word that I shared with you guys a couple of years ago when I was here for the first of the year talk, my annual first of the year talk, right? Where I shared with you that I thought that my best ability for the world that year that I could share would be my availability. And one of the things that I want to talk to you about today, which was just covered in the reading thoroughly by the evolution of what we learned from kindergarten, is adaptability. Last time I was here, I mentioned that, I kind of commiserated with all the other people who felt they needed commiserating with as well over the anxiety or the fears, the depression, the upset, the betrayal, the whatever people were living and feeling at that point. When was I here? It was before Christmas, right? But after Thanksgiving, maybe. Yeah, okay. So the title of my talk today is Resolve, so we bring in the resolution. And you can quit next Friday or the Friday after or whenever you want to, but I don't think we'll ever quit evolving. So my title of the talk was to resolve to involve in order to evolve. Ernest Holmes teaches us in the Science of Mind text that there's a process called involution that kind of has to happen before the process of evolution. Because we don't evolve until we've done something inside. That change is an inside-out job. And so the evolution, being a fancier multisyllabic word for change, is where I think he was going with that. And so last time when I was here, I was sharing with you guys the beginning of the terms that are outlined in this book by Jean Houston called jump time. And all I really did was read to you part of page 11 in here where she talks about identifying the situational analysis kind of, and about how everything's changing everything's in upset, everything's in transition, all the institutions and things are breaking down. Those are the kinds of things that she talked about in that paragraph that I read to y'all. And I felt as though we had a fairly collective consensus that we thought it kind of applies to where we are. But today I'm going to visit with you a little bit more about what she has to say in here about how to move through it and how to get beyond it and how to rise above it and all of that kind of stuff. And we're also going to talk a little bit about this individual inner work that she also talks about in here is necessary. And I brought in another book with me today that I've also been reading in, because these are things I'm doing to try to shape myself up for the times to come. And this book is called Within the Fourth Turning. It is an update, reinterpretation after a fashion of a book that came out in the 50s that was written by a couple of historians. And their theory was that there is a cycle in history that turns. And these are the times that we could look back at historically and reflect upon and say, oh yeah, now we get it, you know. And so he's trying to prepare us for this times that we're in now, being the fourth turning that occurs every like 90 to 100 years or so, according to these historians that promulgated the theory in the original book, The Fourth Turning. And this book also contains within it another book. It's like a little mini book within a book. It's about 35 pages in the back of the book where he outlines this guy that did the reinterpretations. His name is Julian Del Bell. I never had heard of him before. This book was recommended by a gal named Jennifer McLean, whom I was watching on a video of something that she was doing about trauma healing. But she mentioned this book at the end of her talk, that she was reading it and getting a lot of benefit from it. This was in early November or so. So I ordered the book and it came to my daughter's while I was still in Mexico. So I'm just now reading it since I got back from Christmas where I picked the book up. And this little mini book within the book that's about 35 pages long just so happens to have about half of it about adaptation. And I think that we all learned a little later than kindergarten about the idea of evolution in the physical science sense of all of these eras and these epochs that this planet has been through, and how many millions of years that one was, and how many billions of years that one was, and that sort of kind of thing is sort of what I came away from my learning about evolution at that point. And it probably wasn't until I became more aware as an adult that the human species and the planet are evolving together or apart, or however it's looking like at one point in time or the other. But there's nothing more constant than change. At all levels, in all species, in all the universe. We're not just here by ourselves alone, I don't think, and we're looking at the universe too. So this little mini book is a reinterpretation on how to grow personally, heal, and recover using the strategies of Sun Tzu from The Art of War. And I found it to be an extremely interesting interpretation and takeoff, and very informative in terms of having a structure almost to follow if you're looking to reignite your personal growth or embark on a plan of personal growth or whatever. And it has in here 12 chapters that he's highlighting, the 12 principles from The Art of War, and he's talking about in 50% of them, and in 50% of those 35 pages, you can see from all of my little bookmarks here, you know, those are the places I've bookmarked where he talks about how to adapt, how to change, how to adapt. And he uses the word adapt, adaptability, and adaptation. So it really is speaking to me, this whole concept of the things I've been looking at about evolution, adaptation. And I'm here to say that if I have any resolution for the year at all, it's probably to get more adept at adopting, adapting. Try to say that again, right, Vicki? Yeah, I could see her on her face, and then she actually said it. Yeah, Okay, I'm going to be trying. I shouldn't say the word try, right? We are going to become more adept at adopting, adapting, adept, adopt, adapt. I could barely talk, and I couldn't sing at all with Edwin. I have to go down and sing at the male voice level. So I apologize for my voice, and if I'm having trouble getting the words out, I hope that you can forgive me a little bit about that. But also, pardon, will adapt. All right, I'm in favor of that. I'm adapting my whole talk because Edward told me you all are having a presentation today after my talk, and I got to finish in another 10 minutes from now, if the clock is right. And they also shared with me that the last time I was here, the clock was broken and I didn't know it, and they didn't tell me. I was trying to watch the clock, and somehow or another, the clock picked back up again after it wasn't moving, according to Edward. He had set the clock and it wasn't moving and decided, okay, that sucker's broken or whatever. And then it started picking up again. So by the time I actually looked at it, I knew I was late. You know? By the time I looked at it again and it was running, and I never thought about it, Edward. I thought, where did that time go? You know, but I have that problem a lot all the time, anyways. You know, talk too much. But the idea in both of these books that I wanted to talk with you more about, and maybe I will bring something, maybe I'll put something together that I can bring to Edward to share with you or something, or if you want to give me your email address, I can send you later. Because I am going to scan these books into PDF so that I can have the information to share and to do whatever. But in this Jump Time book of Jean Houston's, she takes a more esoteric approach to the personal growth part of what has to happen in order for us to be prepared. And that we have to do our own almost initiation into what we talked about the last time I was here, that she talked about in the book, which is break down to break through. And I added one in front of that I called the break up. That I said, I think we've been through the breakup. We were in the polarization part, and now we're into the breakdown, and everything is probably going to be subject to some level of breakdown. In order to be able to, you know, Humpty Dumpty the thing, we got to put the pieces back together again at some point, and that maybe will constitute a breakthrough. And I mentioned I wasn't sure that, you know, that I'd be on the planet for that part necessarily, but yeah, I can certainly be on the planet for as long as I'm on the planet to do my own and to have my own breakup and with my past experiences, with my past traumas, with my past belief system, you know, my BS, and be able to go to the level of breaking it down, breaking it apart, reverse engineering, whatever all of that involves, for me to be willing to do the things that Vicki talked to us about, which are getting harder in some respects for me. You know, to hold hands and do it all together, to say I'm sorry, to ask someone else for help. You know, the kinds of things that she's talking about that we all learned in kindergarten get a little bit ameliorated as we go through life into our own personal interpretation of, but that doesn't mean in this circumstance. Or, but that doesn't mean with this person. Or, but that doesn't mean that I have to. You ain't the boss of me, kind of thing, you know. The rebel comes out. So those are the elements that I recall thinking about when I hear Fulgham's poem, or I have read the book years back, you know, that we found it a whole lot simpler to take in at that level. And it's a little more challenging. For me, the rebel, the resistant one, you know, it's a little harder for me. So that's why I'm working on me. I know I've got to do it. And I know you guys got to do it too, but that's up to you. Anyway, I would recommend that, you know, these couple of books have good things in them. And then the other thing that occurred this week that rolled into what I wanted to talk with you all about today is the Thursday night video that I wasn't able to come in person for because I'm getting over whatever I'm getting over here. I'm getting over getting out from under is really what I think my life is about. I don't know if the rest of you share that feeling or not, but I was able to attend in the Zoom. And the Gaia video presented me with another element to how to go about this personal growth process and offered the opportunity to do it in what I feel is an easier, more loving and gentle way. This self-discovery process is a bit of self-confrontation and questioning and sometimes revisiting unpleasant memories and traumas and things that we really kind of suppressed, repressed, and got depressed over. And I loved the fact that Teresa Bullard offered us a way to what I characterize as lose your mind to come to your senses, where it wasn't so much a cognitive process as it was one of allowing techniques and opportunities for self-care almost in the whole process of it all. That we would lose our mind and come to our senses by using therapies and techniques that employ the senses. And after processing it a little bit more, I realized, and in that whole process allows us to come to our sixth sense. And the information will come through because we've gotten ourselves to the alpha state where we're not at that 3D visible world all in the form and the process and about product rather than process. So she talked to us about aromatherapy for the sense of smell and somatic therapy for touch in the body. And she talked to us about allowing the healing, to come through from sound frequencies and tuning into the frequencies that might be more relevant to where we believe our present state is to get us elevated to the next state up. And I think more of that information probably be coming through with your Thursday night thing. I don't know about that, but I did go to Gaia and I did watch it again. And I will go and watch the one that came before that maybe you all have already seen, which was all about the sound therapy. And Jim Rogers, who was in the class, is going to send me his stuff that he had done the research on. But one of the things that Teresa mentioned that I wanted to mention to you is that she said when you're in those states and the information and the guidance comes to you, which is what I wanted to talk to you about from Jean Houston's book, which she calls polyphrenic intuition. But you'll have to look that up or chat GPT that. And where basically she's talking about polyphrenic intuition is where we have become, polypersonality, not in the sense of psychological disorder, but just in the sense that we have so many more pieces and parts to our lives than we ever had in years before the technology that we have available now and the mobility that we have available now in society, that it's such a cornucopia almost of who we've become, that any part that we need to access and the things that are part of our lives and that we bring to the moment, we're really an example of the sum is greater than its parts and is still equal to its parts. Anyway, she said also that you could take, Teresa, I'm talking about Bullard in the Gaia thing, that we could take that element of our former understanding of the use of affirmations, and when we are affirming things and we're practicing our affirmations, which is one of our spiritual practices that we teach in Science of Mind, that you don't just like stand in the mirror and say, I'm this, I'm that, and I'm this, and I'm that, but you actually repeat the single affirmation enough times until the whole sensation of your body has responded to it as being integrated, or it's been, as Ernest Holmes would call it, embodied. We have to embody these principles. And Jean Houston talks in her book about that embodiment as being this polyphrenic element where you can live from just simply the principles and awareness. You don't have to have a plan. You don't have to have anything other than being present in the moment and allow whatever shows up and you respond to it out of that awareness of and principles. So I went back to these books that I have from years ago called Letters to the Infinite, The Sacred Yes. And this is about living a year of yes. Was an experiment that Reverend Deborah Johnson, who wrote these books, did. And I have these notes in here. It's a little handbook as well as the book. The little handbook is like the daily stuff. So I open that up and it says, I cultivate possibility consciousness. Because remember last time I was here, I talked about uncertain times are really times of unlimited possibilities, and we're now more certain of that. You get it, right? So I opened it up and I have in here like 10 affirmations that apparently I was using at the time. And I thought, okay, God, I get it. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to work with those 10 until I adapt to something else. And I'm open to that adaptation. But I will follow Teresa's suggestion of saying it aloud and allowing the vibrational frequency of whatever level of frequency it sets off for me to activate whatever is going to be activated somatically in the body. And because this is kind of how I took her examples of how this could be used to lose your mind to come to your senses and let your senses be your guide. So it's 11:45 and I'm going to quit, but I'm going to do a real quick treatment for you, for all of us, before I step down off the podium and give it back over to Vicki and for whatever it is that is on the agenda here for the presentation from Wellspring. So we just take in all of this information and allow our senses to feel this, to examine the evolution. The example that Jean Houston gives is to imagine ourselves as a single cell out there in the bog, in the swamp, recognizing that the membrane in our cell is what has to expand in order for us to continue to survive with the pressures of the environment that we're in. And eventually, we come to the point where we've expanded beyond our capacity to expand further. And there's something has to happen. We're either going to change or we're going to die, as all evolutionary process seems to be related to that. But other cells out there, other single cell bacterial forms or whatever, are also having the same challenges and expanding the membranes, which basically for a single cell is the brain. B-R-A-I-N. The M-E-B-R-A-N-E is the B-R-A-I-N. And we end up touching other single cell creatures that have expanded. But instead of killing each other in some conflict of war, we merge. And more come on until we're a multi-celled creature that's creating a nucleus that has an operational system that's there. And we are all basically holding hands and sticking together. And we imagine that during this week when we leave here today. We declare that this is the evolutionary process as we choose to follow it. To hold hands, to stick together, to find the common ground in order to find the higher ground. That we accept the divinity within us, the divinity within all. Take our lives to the mystic level and the mythic level as we go through the processes that we will need to be preparing for with our evolution at the personal level in order to serve the planetary level as the light beings, as the spiritual leaders that we are. I told Vicki earlier that being prepared, like she and I were in the Girl Scouts, is about being prepared. It's a word I invented that we call being prayed up. So this week we take our spiritual practices back, whether they're affirmations, confirmations, readings, things that give us a lighter frequency level to operate out of. To feel in our system, to feel in our body, the wonder, the awe, the hope, the new beginner's mind of the kindergartner who accepts at face value all of what is taught about how to be in the world, how to be with each other, how to be beyond the other into the oneness that is our nature, our God nature, our highest level of super consciousness that operates from the I am that I am, and all is that I am, and so it is. Amen.
These, the other song we're doing is Dandy Boy. And we all love this song. And the more you sing it and research it, the more you get to know what it's really about. So I'm not sure that you have realized this, but I think the song really is about a grandfather essentially singing the song to his grandson who's been called to war. This may have been Ireland. The Irish love the song, but I think it was actually originally Scottish. So, see if we're on here. And sing. Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen and down the mountainside. The summer's gone and all the roses falling. It's you must go and I must bide. But come ye back when summer's in the meadow, or when the valleys hush and white with snow. For I'll be here in sunshine or in shadow. Oh, Danny boy, oh, Danny boy, I love you so. But when you come and all the flowers are dying, and I am dead, as dead I well may be, you'll come and find the place where I am lying, and kneel and say an Ave there for me. And I shall feel those soft you tread above me, and all my grave will warmer, sweeter be. For you will bend and tell me that you love me. Then I will sleep in peace until you come to me. Oh, Danny boy, Oh, Danny boy, I love you so. Like a hymn, isn't it?
Thank you. Peggy just said, now we have to sing Irish Eyes Are Smiling. Okay. It's so lovely to see all your smiling faces. Now it's time for our offering. And Sharon will come up the aisle passing the basket. We acknowledge and receive our virtual and in-person gifts. We give great thanks for the offerings already given and those that we will be receiving, because we know that giving and receiving are all part of the same flow. We affirm that we are also part of that flow, and we bless these gifts and know that they are multiplied throughout our community. And so it is. And now we will have a special announcement from our own Sharon White. Do you want this on?
This is a history lesson. Many of you don't know, but many of you do know, the history of our pergola garden area. Years ago, it was ugly out there. We had the fireplace and we had a tree that was dead. And I kept on looking at it going, this is not welcoming. We need to have welcoming and love and beauty and joy, a place to celebrate out there. And so I grabbed everyone and I said, come on, I have an idea, and had people stand at corners. And I looked at something and I went, this is my idea. I'd like to see a pergola, a place where we can barbecue and eat, gather, have fun, celebrate. And I also had an idea about who it would be for. And I went up to the Mindens. Sweet Betty is usually on Zoom. She and Sam and Nancy, and her husband, of course, were some strong members of the beginnings of Wellspring. Many of you know that we had Sam and Nancy as minister in music. We had the Mindens, who took care of the bookstore. They were hauling books in to where we were renting. Then they set it up here, took care of it. But I went up to their house and I said, here's the idea, and I would like to get your ideas. They were very well known for their plants. They lived in the desert, but they knew plants. So it was decided to have a fundraiser. And someone named Vicki started getting this together. This is the tree of the beginning of our garden area. We sold trees and bushes and plants. All of those that you see out there in the pergola area have been purchased by different members of the church. And every time someone donated money or bought a beautiful tree or plant, Vicki put a leaf on the tree. So there are names here that, there's so many memories. So many memories. But the other day, it was noticed that all of a sudden, there were empty leaves that had been filled. There's joy, love, blessings. Celebrate abundance, spirit, prosperity, peace. And so it is. And I have a feeling that someone named Vicky did this. And she did. So I would just like to express gratitude to someone who put her heart and her soul into helping with our garden. Thank you, Vicky.
It's all out of love for our beloved Wellspring. Well, there are a few folks that I want to specifically thank for helping with today's production. We have Brenda back as our techie and Edward as our camera. We had our special music with Edwin and our speaker, Peggy Shinn. And all of you for being here, and those of you in Zoom land, because without you, it would be like a one-handed clap. It would just not work. So, thank you. Also, for those in Zoom, we'll unmute you in a bit here, and if there's others there on Zoom, you can chat. Otherwise, please come over to the fellowship hall where we have yummy little treats and socializing. And now, for those of you who are able, if you would please stand for our benediction and then our peace song. We gather in the aisle in an oblong circle and hold hands and stick together. Our benediction. Spirit in the midst of us is mighty. Joy, peace, and eternal life are our true nature and flow through us into the world, and so it is.
Now there is peace on earth, and it has begun with me. Now there's our center united. Now we walk with each other in perfect harmony. Peace has begun with me, and this is the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment peace eternally. Now there is peace on earth, and it has